Hey guys, so today's video is just a more recommendations video. I've been kind of feeling in the mood for reading again, which I told you guys in my last video that I'm like getting back into the groove of things and like actually sitting down with a physical book. And it's because I think it's getting less hot outside. Autumn's coming in, like it's just such good vibes, and I think this is like my favorite season to read. I think from autumn to like end of the year I always end up reading the most books, and then it ends up in a reading slump for January and February every single time. But I have some recommendations for autumn time of books that I like to read. I have some specific titles, and then I just have like categories and just like recommendations in that sense, but it's not all just like read this book, read this book, read this book. Anyway, subscribe, hit that bell, like, comment for engagement. There'll be more social media and other YouTube channels in the description, such as my drama channel, my deep dive channel, my podcast, and everything in between. So just do that, and let's just get into it. Some cozy books. Should we get some cozy lighting just for this? What do you think, babe? I'm talking to my dog on the outside of the camera, off camera, if you're wondering what's going on. Oh, and that was my dog, speaking of my dog. I have just some cozy books. I just read the last kind of book that is released from this series, but it's not like the last part that will come out. So there's more coming to this series, but the Truly Devious series has been hyped on YouTube for a while. I remember I got it as a recommendation on YouTube because people were talking about it. It's a mystery book about this girl that's really interested in true crime, and she ends up going to a boarding school where it's just for like super talented people in like a niche thing. So there'll be someone that like builds things, and there'll be someone that paints, and someone that sings, but it'll be people that are very good at like this one thing. And she's very good at true crime, and there was actually a murder case in that school years back, and she's coming in to basically solve the mystery. And it jumps between the old time when the mystery happened and then new time. And in the new time, there's another mystery happening at the same time. So she's like solving a present case and then a past case as well. And there are now 4 books. I just finished the 4th one now. And it just reminded me how cozy this book is, this series, how cozy it is, how like autumnal it is. It's just such a good book to read now, this series. And because it's 4 books, if you get into it, you can just keep on reading. I know the 5th one's coming out maybe end of this year, I'm pretty sure. So perfect timing, so you can read all 4 before the 5th one comes out. I think it's not the most profound mystery book. Like you're not gonna be like, oh my god, this plot twist like really just, blew my mind. But I think it's just the feeling that the books have that really fit the vibe, and it's such a chill experience. It's not super dark or anything like that. You're just kind of, it's just a vibe. The first 2, I believe, are at the boarding school, and then we get like a camping one as well. Or is it the first 3 that are in the boarding school, and the 4th one is the only one that's at like a camping excursion? So I wonder what the 5th one's gonna be about. I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's just a great series to read right now. Then we have a book that I just finished. It's a romance novel actually, and I think once again the vibes and the setting are immaculate. I just think it's a well-written book. So the All Roads Lead Here book by Mariana Zapata. It's in Colorado in like wintertime. I think she comes to a town, like she moves to a new town. I think it's like beginning of like autumn, and you get into like the winter season, and that's just kind of how the book goes. But it's very autumnal. She goes on a lot of hikes. She works in like a camping shop. She lives in like a little garage apartment thing, and it is a romance, but it's a very, very slow burn. So there really isn't any romantic interactions until probably 65% of the book in. So if you don't really like love at first sight kind of a thing, this is perfect. It's such a slow burn, and you really focus on all the characters in town. Focus on her past relationships, her developing as a person. Like you focus on her going on hikes and like wanting to like be in this town, and it's such autumnal vibes, mainly because of all the nature talk and like the fact that it's like cold, like it's winter time. Oh, it's so good. And then like it gets to, I think the end of the book is Christmas time, and it's just like such a perfect book to read now. I think it's one of my favorite romances that I've read. It's truly a well-written book. Then we have something that got me out of a reading slump last year, and it's Midnight Library. So there's this woman who is suicidal, and she attempts suicide, which obviously is a bit of a morbid beginning to the book, but it's not very, like I think it's done quite in a quite tame way. Like it's not super like graphic or anything like that. And she ends up in the Midnight Library, which is a library where you pick up different books, and it takes you to different versions of your life if you had made different choices. And I used to love, and I'm still kind of like on the hunt for a game like this. I used to love games like The Walking Dead or Life is Strange, like those ones where you would pick options and they would change the way that the game would go. I used to love those. They used to kind of stress me out, but it was great. This is essentially that, but in a book. Like if you loved those games, you're gonna love this book. But instead of just picking that one choice and that's it, she gets to essentially click on all the options and see how her life would have been if she had done other things. Because the reason why she is suicidal is because her life is not going the way she would want it to go. And it takes her down different paths where she realizes that no other option would have really made her happier, because it's not about the outcome or the choices, it's about you as a person, right? Like you enjoying life and enjoying the people around you, and not really like, oh, if I was a rock star, if I was a, you know, whatever, like just appreciating where you are in the current moment. It was just a great book. And because it was a darker topic, it kind of fit the darker seasons, if that makes sense. I think it was a really good book. And I read it in January and it really did get me out of a reading slump, but I also feel like it fit the mood. Then we have one of my favorite Colleen Hoover book, and also my favorite book of the year so far that I've read, and it's Verity. I've talked about this book so much, so, you know, but it's a perfect read for now. It's a dark, twisted book. If you love that, you're gonna love it. Basically, there's an author who is writing books, and someone comes to her workplace and offers her a job where essentially his wife is really ill and she can't finish a series that is very popular. So he's looking for an author to essentially read through his wife's manuscript and then just continue the series and finish it off for the fans of the series. And he says, you can move in with us, look through my wife's stuff, and then write your book. So she moves in with them, and that's kind of where the story kicks off. And I can't really tell you guys much without spoiling it, like, but it's so twisted and it's so dark, and like even the cover just feels so autumnal. Like it's just such a good book to read. Once she finds the manuscript that she's reading, you're switching between POV of what's happening current day, like while she's in the house, and then you're switching to the manuscript written by the wife, and it's just such an amazing book. I think for now, if you're gonna read it anytime, read it now. Let's switch gears a tiny bit. Normal People. I just finished it by Sally Rooney. Oh my god, what a good book. I know people, it's a love or hate, I think, because of like the ambiguous title and cover. I think a lot of people picked it up without expecting it to be a romance, and also it's just the way it's described. But it's essentially a romance, but done in a really weird way, where it's about friends of benefits that go from kind of the last year of, I guess, high school to end of uni. It takes them on this like 3 to 4 year time frame of just being friends of benefits, having feelings for each other, but heavily miscommunicating, being quite toxic, but just in a young way. Not toxic like abusive, but toxic just in like a really young and misunderstanding relationships way. It's a great representation of kind of modern day relationships and just understanding other people and how important communication is and yada yada yada. And I think it's just a really good book, but also most of it feels like, even if it isn't, most of it feels like it's happening in autumn time. Like for some reason it gives me those vibes. And I just started watching the TV show because it's actually just got turned into a TV show. It's on BBC if you guys want to watch it. And it has like that gloomy look, and it's, yeah, there are some scenes in like summertime obviously, but it's got that gloomy autumnal but like cozy look to it. So like even the TV show is such a good watch right now. But yeah, just the feeling of it. It's not like a super happy book, and I don't even think it's got a happy ending necessarily, but it's just such a nice read. It isn't very plot driven, it's a very character driven book, so if you don't like that, skip, but I think it's a good book. Any mystery thriller. I know I just recommended Verity and Truly Devious, but just any mystery thriller, mainly like town vibe, like small town mysteries or like family drama mysteries, I think are really good. My favorite author for that is Jo Spain. So for Jo Spain, I read Dirty Little Secrets, The Confession, The Perfect Lie, 6 Wicked Reasons, and I read her most recent book, The Last to Disappear, which I think is the most cozy one. That one is, how can I describe a mystery thriller as cozy? But you guys know what I mean. It's at a luxury skiing resort, which, just the vibes are so immaculate. But the other ones are like small town mysteries with just like a small group of people. And then there's B.A. Paris, who wrote some books as well, but I've only read Behind Closed Doors and The Dilemma, but I gave The Dilemma a 2 star, so I wouldn't recommend that one, but I gave Behind Closed Doors a 4 star. They're all very small town, small cast of people, kind of mystery thrillers, and I think those are the ones that feel really cozy and feel really like small and confined and like cozy, but in like a really dark way. Then I have something for the younger audience, and this book got a lot of on YouTube a few years back. I used to watch like all the negative reviews, negative in like a good, I'm not on the people that made the videos, I think they were really entertaining, but that's how I found some of my favorite book YouTubers, was just through these reviews. But people hated this book because there was some like justification of cheating and like flawed characters. But the thing about me is I love a good flawed character. You're not going to take that away from me. I love the After series. Yeah, I do. They're flawed characters. It's beautiful. It's fictional. I don't care. I don't care if people cheat in books. I don't care if people do things in books because it's fiction. I think there are some things that I don't excuse, like if it clearly shows that the author is problematic, then I don't excuse it. But I think just writing flawed characters is great. And I don't care really that, like, it's not real life, so it doesn't affect me. So Anna and the French Kiss, it's in Paris. Anna moves from her hometown, I can't remember where she lived. She moves to a boarding school in Paris where she meets a guy, he has a girlfriend, there is a little bit of cheating involved. They end up doing their romancy thing in Paris, and because it's Paris and a lot of it is written kind of autumn winter time, it's such a cozy read. I loved it actually, and I bought like a special edition of the book, like a hardcover of it, that I'm gonna read again this winter time because I'm just feeling the cozy vibes. It is a younger book, it is kind of high school, which I did tell you guys that I am always kind of iffy about reading those kind of books because I am 22. Not like I think it's weird for me to read them, I don't think it makes me like a creep, but it just doesn't hit the same anymore. But I think I always like to give them a shot. Like I read Punk 57, 52, there is a number at the end of that, by Penelope Douglas, and that was high school, and it did make me feel a bit weird, but you know, anyway, so Anna and the French Kiss is a great read for this winter time. I just think it's so cozy. Like I think something about like a boarding school in Paris feels great. And then my last one for this list is a very hit or miss author, and it's the same author of Verity, but I'm just gonna mention it because Verity was her only mystery thriller book. She writes romance, and it's Colleen Hoover. She only writes exclusive romance, and this was her first mystery, which was Verity. But I think her romance books are quite cozy in a very twisted way. They're quite dark, but they feel like they should be in autumn time. Like it feels like they're all set in autumn times. I've read Reminders of Him, I've read November 9th. All of them have like plot twists and turns, and it's all very like, ooh, you know? So I just think it's a romance but with a twist on it. I think it feels very autumnal. I think some romances can feel very summertime. Like if it's just like a light happy ending and they lived happy ever after like romance, it's gonna feel very summertime. I can't read certain things right now in this season, but I think if it's very like twisted, plot twisty, yada yada, it feels more autumnal and wintry. So I'll probably read a lot of Colleen Hoover this winter time. And that's my recommendations for the winter season, autumn winter season. Those are my cozy romances, mysteries, and other that I recommend to you guys. So subscribe to the bell, like, comment for engagement, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.